The sun glared down on the pristine lawns of Silverwood Estates, but beneath the perfect suburban facade, a storm was brewing. With Colonel Ethan Walker deployed overseas in a high-stakes mission, Veronica Blake, the power-hungry HOA president, saw her golden opportunity. Ethan's family home, a beautiful colonial passed down through 4 generations, stood proudly at the heart of the neighborhood. But for Veronica, it was nothing more than a prime piece of real estate ripe for redevelopment. Her vision, a luxury community center complete with a spa, rooftop pool, and a private club that would skyrocket property values and, more importantly, her social status. She masked her intentions behind HOA violations, citing Ethan's home for absurd infractions, non-compliant window shutters, faded paint, and even overgrown hedges that exceeded the allowed height by half an inch. With Ethan overseas and unable to defend himself, she set the gears in motion. What Veronica didn't expect was Emily Carter, Ethan's cousin and neighbor, watching from her kitchen window, coffee in hand, as Veronica circled the house like a vulture. Emily knew something wasn't right. She could feel it in her gut, the way Veronica smirked while snapping photos, her designer heels clicking against the driveway. This wasn't about curb appeal. This was war. And Emily wasn't about to let Veronica destroy her family's legacy without a fight. Emily Carter paced her living room, clutching her coffee cup as if it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. Her mind replayed the scene over and over. Veronica Blake, the self-proclaimed queen of Silverwood Estates, strutting around Ethan Walker's family home, snapping pictures with her phone, her polished nails tapping furiously on the screen. But it wasn't the HOA violations that unsettled Emily. It was Veronica's smirk, the kind of smug satisfaction that screamed, "I've already won." Emily's heart raced. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a few petty violations. Veronica had been hovering around Ethan's house almost daily since his deployment. And now, rumors about a new community center project were swirling around the neighborhood. Determined to find answers, Emily fired up her laptop and dove headfirst into the HOA's online archives. For hours, she sifted through meeting minutes, financial reports, and zoning proposals. Most of it was the usual bureaucratic nonsense, until she stumbled upon something chilling. A hidden agenda from the last HOA meeting. Proposal for Silverwood Luxury Community Center, planned demolition of Lot 17. Lot 17, Ethan's house. Emily's stomach twisted into knots. Veronica had already submitted permits to the city for the demolition, without any formal approval from Ethan, or even notifying him. The violations were just a cover, a paper trail to justify tearing the house down. But it got worse. Emily discovered that Richard Blake, Veronica's husband, was the owner of Blake & Sons Construction, the company listed as the primary contractor for the community center. This wasn't just about improving the neighborhood, it was a carefully orchestrated scheme for personal profit. Emily slammed her laptop shut, her hands trembling. She had to warn Ethan, but military communications were limited, and she knew it could take days before her message reached him. Time was running out. Suddenly, a knock at the door jolted her out of her thoughts. She opened it to find a certified letter, another violation notice addressed to Ethan, citing non-compliant roofing materials and threatening hefty fines. Emily's blood boiled. "This has gone too far," she muttered. She grabbed her phone and started recording a video, determined to expose Veronica's corruption. "Hey guys," she began, her voice shaky but firm. "I need your help. My cousin's house is under threat. While he's overseas serving our country, our HOA president, Veronica Blake, is planning to demolish his home under false violations. I found proof, hidden agendas, fake permits, and her husband's construction company set to profit from it all." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. If you've ever dealt with an HOA nightmare or corrupt board members, drop a 1 in the comments. And if you believe our veterans deserve better than this, like and subscribe. I'll keep you updated on everything that happens next. Because this isn't over, not by a long shot. Emily ended the recording and hit upload, her heart pounding. She knew one thing for sure. If Veronica wanted a battle, she was about to get one. and Emily was ready to fight dirty. Emily Carter couldn't sleep that night. Her mind buzzed with thoughts of Veronica Blake and the web of deceit she had uncovered. The documents she found, hidden HOA agendas, demolition proposals, and Richard Blake's construction contracts, were damning. But none of it would matter if she couldn't stop Veronica in time. By morning, Emily's phone was buzzing with notifications. Her video had gone semi-viral in the local community, neighbors commenting, some offering support, others expressing shock at Veronica's scheme. But the clock was ticking. At 9 a.m., Emily noticed a group of HOA board members gathered in front of Ethan Walker's house, clipboards in hand, discussing something in hushed tones. From her window, she could see Veronica, dressed impeccably in a tailored navy suit, leading the group. She pointed towards Ethan's house with sharp, decisive gestures, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. Emily grabbed her phone and started recording again from her window. She zoomed in just in time to catch Veronica saying, "Demolition starts next week. No delays. We can't risk him coming back before it's done." Emily's heart dropped. Ethan wasn't supposed to return for another 3 weeks, but even that timeline was now a risk. She needed a plan. She hurried to her desk and pulled out the certified letter she received the day before. It contained the notice of violations, and more importantly, a date. An emergency HOA meeting scheduled for Friday night to finalize the community center plans. That was only 3 days away. Emily knew that once the board voted, it would be nearly impossible to stop the demolition legally. Veronica had meticulously orchestrated every move to skirt the laws protecting deployed military personnel, timing everything so that the house would be gone before Ethan could even find out. But there was one loophole Emily could exploit: the Service Members Civil Relief Act, a federal law protecting active duty military from legal actions like foreclosures and property seizures during deployment. If she could prove that Veronica and the HOA were violating it, she might be able to delay the demolition long enough for Ethan to return. Emily spent the next few hours contacting local attorneys, but most were hesitant to go up against the HOA without concrete proof. Her frustration grew with every rejected call until she finally found a lawyer named Daniel Hayes, a veteran himself, who immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "I'll help you," Daniel said firmly, "but we'll need an injunction to halt any action on the property. That means we need evidence, emails, meeting notes, anything that shows they planned this knowing Ethan was deployed." Emily's mind raced back to the HOA archives she had scoured the night before. There were mentions of the project, but no explicit notes tying Veronica to the plan. She needed something more concrete. That evening, under the cover of dusk, Emily crept over to the HOA office located inside the community clubhouse. She knew the security was minimal, just a keypad lock and some outdated cameras. Her hands trembled as she punched in the code she had seen Veronica use at a previous meeting, 4572. The door clicked open. Inside, filing cabinets lined the walls. Emily rifled through drawer after drawer, her heart pounding in her chest. Finally, she found a folder labeled Community Center Proposal, Confidential. Inside were blueprints, emails, and most damning of all, a signed contract between the HOA and Blake and Sons Construction, dated 2 months before the board had even voted on the project. But what sent chills down Emily's spine was an email exchange between Veronica and Richard. "Make sure the crew is ready to break ground the day after the vote. I don't care if Ethan gets back early. We can't have him interfering." Emily snapped photos of everything on her phone and quietly slipped out of the clubhouse. She had what she needed, but the danger was far from over. As she made her way back home, headlights suddenly illuminated the street behind her. A black SUV crawled forward, its tinted windows hiding the driver. Emily quickened her pace, her heart thudding like a drumbeat. The SUV slowly pulled up beside her, the window lowering just enough for her to see Veronica Blake in the driver's seat, her cold smile gleaming in the darkness. "Out late, aren't we, Emily?" Veronica purred. Emily swallowed hard, clutching her phone tighter. "I know what you're doing, and I'm going to stop you." Veronica's smile faded slightly, her eyes narrowing. "You're in over your head." The SUV sped off into the night, leaving Emily standing alone under the streetlights, breathless, but more determined than ever. The countdown had begun. and Emily wasn't about to let Veronica win. The demolition begins. A desperate stand. The morning air was thick with fog as Emily Carter jolted awake to the rumble of heavy machinery. Her heart pounded as she threw open her curtains. There, creeping down the perfectly manicured street of Silverwood Estates, were three massive bulldozers, followed by a dump truck. They were heading straight for Ethan Walker's family home. No, no, no! Emily shouted, grabbing her phone and racing downstairs. She barely had time to throw on a jacket over her pajamas before bolting out the door. The scene was like something out of a nightmare. Veronica Blake stood at the edge of Ethan's lawn, dressed impeccably in designer workout gear, clipboard in hand, barking orders at the demolition crew. Her diamond-studded sunglasses reflected the morning light, but Emily could see the cold satisfaction behind them. Emily sprinted down the driveway, waving frantically. Stop! You can't do this! This house belongs to an active-duty service member! One of the bulldozer drivers hesitated, cutting the engine for a moment, but Veronica, without even looking at Emily, snapped, Proceed! All permits are in place. Emily's hands trembled as she pulled out the legal documents she'd been carrying ever since uncovering Veronica's plot. I have a power of attorney for Ethan. This house is protected under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. It's illegal to demolish it while he's deployed. Veronica finally turned, her smile dripping with condescension. Oh, sweet Emily, she purred. The HOA board held an emergency vote last night, unanimous approval. The house has been deemed structurally unsound. We're doing the community a favor. Emily's jaw clenched. You forged that vote. I have the proof. Emails, contracts, everything. This is illegal. Veronica's eyes flickered, but she didn't waver. Well then, she said coolly, I suggest you take it up with your lawyer. But these gentlemen have a job to do. The bulldozers roared back to life. Desperate, Emily pulled out her phone and started live streaming. Guys, I need your help, she said, her voice shaky but determined. They're demolishing my cousin's house, right now, while he's serving overseas. This is illegal. We need to stop them before it's too late. In the background, viewers could see the bulldozers inching forward, the metal claws lifting high above the roof of Ethan's house. Please, if you're watching this, comment stop and share this video. We need to make some noise before it's too late, Emily pleaded. Her phone buzzed with notifications as viewers poured in, their comments flooding the screen. This is outrageous! Call the police! How is this even legal? But it wasn't enough. The bulldozer's claw came crashing down onto the front porch, splintering wood and shattering windows. Emily gasped, tears stinging her eyes. That's when her phone rang, Ethan's name flashing on the screen. She answered, her voice trembling. Ethan, they're tearing down your house. You need to get here. Now. I'm already on my way. Ethan's voice was calm, but filled with fury. I caught an early flight. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Hold them off. Emily's hands were shaking, but she found renewed strength. I'll try. She turned back to Veronica, her live stream still rolling. You're going to regret this, Veronica. Ethan's coming back, and he's not going to let this slide. Veronica's smile faltered for the first time, but she quickly regained her composure. Well, she sneered, he better hurry, because in 10 minutes, there won't be a house left to save. The stream kept rolling, the audience growing by the second. Thousands were watching now, commenting, sharing, spreading the word. But would it be enough? Emily stood her ground, heart racing, as the second bulldozer crept closer. The hero returns, a showdown on Silverwood Street. The sound of splintering wood echoed through Silverwood Estates as the bulldozer claw tore into the front wall of Ethan Walker's family home. Glass shattered, and fragments of the porch scattered across the manicured lawn. Emily Carter stood frozen, her live stream still rolling as thousands watched helplessly online. Her heart raced as she clutched her phone, waiting for Ethan. The seconds dragged, each one marked by the metallic screech of the demolition. Then, through the chaos, she heard it, the screech of tires. A black SUV came to a halt at the curb, and the driver's door flung open. Ethan Walker, dressed in full military uniform, his medals gleaming in the morning sun, stepped out. His face was stone cold, but Emily could see the fury burning in his eyes. The demolition crew froze mid-action, their machines idling as they noticed Ethan's imposing figure. Even the crowd that had gathered across the street fell silent. Ethan marched forward, his boots crunching over broken glass and debris. He stopped right in front of Veronica Blake, who now looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Her perfect composure cracked as Ethan loomed over her. "Colonel Walker," she stammered, we didn't expect. You didn't expect me to make it home in time?" Ethan's voice was calm, but each word dripped with controlled rage. "While I was risking my life overseas, you decided to destroy my family's home?" Veronica swallowed hard, but tried to recover her arrogance. "The HOA board voted unanimously, structural issues, violations." Ethan pulled a weathered envelope from his pocket and thrust it in front of her. "This is my deed. This house has been in my family for generations, and as per the Service Members Civil Relief Act, it's protected while I'm deployed." Veronica's facade crumbled further, but she still tried to hold her ground. There were exceptions, emergency votes, permits. Ethan cut her off. "You mean forged documents? Emily has the proof. I've seen the emails." The crowd gasped. Several neighbors pulled out their phones, recording the entire confrontation. Then Ethan raised his hand and signaled the demolition crew. "Shut it down. Now." The bulldozer operator, who had been watching from inside his cab, hesitated. But one look at Ethan's decorated uniform was enough. He killed the engine, and the machine fell silent. But Ethan wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone, dialing a number with deliberate precision. Veronica watched helplessly, her breathing shallow. "Senator Reynolds, it's Colonel Walker. Yes, I'm standing in front of my home. What's left of it. The HOA here just violated federal law. I need you to escalate this to the Attorney General's office." Veronica's face drained of all color as Ethan continued. "Yes, sir. I have video evidence, live streams, and forged documents. This wasn't just negligence, it was calculated." Ethan ended the call and turned back to Veronica. "You thought you could destroy my home while I was gone, but you underestimated one thing?" Veronica blinked, her lips trembling. "What?" "I always come home, and I never leave a battle unfinished." The crowd erupted in cheers. Emily felt tears well in her eyes, not just from relief, but pride. Veronica took a shaky step backward, but Ethan held her in place with nothing more than his gaze. "This isn't over, Veronica. You'll answer for every law you broke, every family you tried to ruin." And with that, Ethan stepped over the debris, walking back toward the broken remains of his home, his battle only just beginning. Then a scandal unravels. A web of corruption exposed. The dust hadn't even settled around the wreckage of Ethan Walker's home when sirens pierced the air. 2 police cruisers and a black government SUV pulled up to the scene, lights flashing against the broken shards of glass and splintered wood that now littered the once pristine lawn of Silverwood Estates. Ethan stood tall amidst the debris, his uniform dusted with plaster, but his presence radiated strength. Beside him, Emily Carter clutched her phone, still recording. The video feed had now been shared tens of thousands of times online, pulling national attention to the unfolding scandal. From the government SUV, a man in a tailored suit emerged, Special Agent Morris from the Department of Justice. He approached Ethan and gave him a respectful nod. "Colonel Walker, I'm here on behalf of the Attorney General. We received the call. We're escalating this to a full federal investigation." Ethan returned the nod. "Thank you, Agent Morris. The HOA has violated multiple federal protections under the Service Members Civil Relief Act, and possibly more." Morris surveyed the damage, his jaw tightening. "I've seen some shady HOA practices before, but this is on another level." Just then, Veronica Blake tried to slink away, heels clicking rapidly as she made her way to her luxury SUV parked nearby. But before she could even reach for the door handle, 2 officers intercepted her. "Mrs. Blake," one officer announced, "you're under investigation for conspiracy to commit fraud, violation of federal property laws, and obstruction of justice." Veronica spun around, her face pale, but her voice was still laced with desperation. "This is a mistake. I followed protocol. The board approved everything." Ethan stepped forward, steel in his voice. "No, Veronica. You forged documents, falsified HOA votes, and illegally targeted my home while I was serving overseas. You manipulated the system for personal gain. Agent Morris gestured to one of his assistants, who pulled out a file. We've also uncovered financial records showing multiple transfers from HOA accounts to Blake & Sons Construction, your husband's company. These funds were earmarked for community improvement, but were funneled directly into personal accounts. Veronica's composure crumbled. I didn't know about that. It was Richard, my husband. He handled the contracts. But it was too late. A second black SUV screeched to a halt, and two plainclothes agents dragged out Richard Blake, who was handcuffed and visibly disheveled. Looks like we found the puppet master, Agent Morris muttered. Richard struggled against his restraints. You can't prove anything, it's all circumstantial. But Agent Morris held up a USB drive. We have emails, bank statements, and even recordings. One of your employees decided to come clean.